it. I think we have a lot of, we've got a lot to go through. I mean, I think a lot of women have done really amazing things, and our panelists are exactly that. I will introduce them in a bit. I think let us first speak about the reason why we're here. What is International Women's Day? You know, because I think when we sit here in South Africa, we think only the 9th of August as the day that we only celebrate women. Got to know in March, there's also a day where globally we are celebrated because we are that phenomenal and that powerful. So International Women's Day is a global holiday and celebrated annually on the 8th of March to commemorate the culture, the political and socio-economic achievements of women as well. And then why do we celebrate it? The day basically aims to focus on global attention on the state of women when it comes to gender equality, bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. Its goal is to make the world more diverse and equitable and inclusive for them as well. So I hope we all understand the Google definition of why do we celebrate Women's Day, and that we can go back and to our friends and our, you know, our mothers, and also basically, you know, share a bit more about this day and the topic we're about to, you know, dissect today. And this year's theme for International Women's Day is this year, the focus is on breaking the bias. And I know, ZINTLE, you have shared this on our screen. I think it's on our chat, if I'm not mistaken, where the hashtag is break the bias, and tag us on all social media platforms at YLC Ideal. All right, now we have amazing women on the stage, and I'm going to introduce each and every one of them, and then they will just, you know, show their hands and wave like a queen. So we have LERATO PHELANE. She's a CA and Assistant Internal Audit Manager at NETCARE. Awesome stuff. We also have MATHAPELO MZIZI, who is a Partnerships Manager at ERICSSON, all the way abroad. Wave like the queen you are. And we have, okay, I was practicing her surname just before we went on. REFILWE DIGOAMAJE. Is that correct?
REFILWE DIGOAMAJE.
DIGOAMAJE. My apologies, and thank you for the correction. So she's a founder and director of NAWIRI. And we also have the lady who normally controls whether I can talk, I can keep quiet, get off, get on the stage, right here for our YLC, ZINTLE RAMANO, who is the founder and co-founder of BAAB Media Group. And yeah, so those are our speakers today. Thank you, ladies, for you know, joining us today. We are gonna, you know, in this discussion, speak about a whole lot of different things, and I hope you guys are prepared to, you know, overshare information, because sometimes information is not the most easiest. We think it's accessible sometimes, and sometimes we're getting the wrong information. So this is why you guys are here. So before, for those people that are joining and they're not actually part of YLC, let me just give you a quick background of YLC. Young Leaders Connect, which is therefore YLC, is an initiative of IWFSA Leadership Development, and IWFSA has 6 pillars and 6-pillar strategy, and it focuses on different things: leadership development, you know, as well as brand and reputation, and a whole lot of other things as well. But essentially, it's here to empower and develop us as young women, and also to accelerate us, connect us, and also identify what we're really about and how we as women can go forth. So it is a very great initiative tonight that we have the ladies that are here, and thanks to our leaders for making sure that, you know what, it's International Women's Day. Don't forget about this day. And yeah, so I'm going to jump on to the questions to my speakers, and I'm going to start with MATHAPELO. MATHAPELO, thank you once again for joining us. I wanted to find out a couple of things, as I know that you're not abroad, but as this is not, I know this is not part of the question, but what's it also like being in a country where I assume there's not as much Black women in your industry, but as well as in the country that you are in.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good question, actually, to start with. Firstly, happy International Women's Day to all the incredible women that on the line. Thank you so much for taking time to celebrate this day with us. Today is obviously all about us and to honor each and every single woman. Absolutely, I think being in a foreign country is, as an African or as a woman of color, it is really difficult. It is really challenging, but at the same time, it is an opportunity to represent where you come from. You represent your country, you represent the values that your country stands for, but also is more importantly to say that you have a seat at the global table as well, that you've got your voice and your experience matter. And that's, I think, for me, being in a place where I'm at right now is just reflecting on what does it really mean to be an African and playing in a global space, and what does my experience and my voice really mean. So it's really about showing up and showcasing the power of an African woman, because there's so many women that have paved the way for us to even be in a place like where we are internationally. So yeah, that's just my reflection.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I did ask that purposely because I think we assume that, because you are a minority, people might want to just jump on and say, listen, we see that you've got great results. We see that you've done this. You see that we've done this. Come here and sit, and that, they see you as just a gem. But the reality is different, and that's what you've just expressed. So thank you kindly. I do want to ask you your question. But I do also know that REFILWE's battery is about to die, and load shedding is a real thing in our country. So, you can never really plan accordingly. So I know that you obviously have your questions already. So hang 10, let me jump onto REFILWE. REFILWE, dear Queen, are you ready before you disappear on us on screen?
Listen, I hope I'm ready. But load shedding will show you flames. So you always have to be prepared situations.
Awesome stuff. So, you are a young woman and you run your own business as well. What does breaking the bias mean to you as a young woman who is in this country and running their own business?
Thank you, Thando. Well, I think the fact that we are all here as young women on this panel is, really breaking the bias. I've been monitoring today all the events that have been taking place, the International Women's Day events that have been taking place, and looking at the speakers, looking at the panelists, it was all, I think, older, more mature crowd, and rightfully so. These people are qualified to be speaking on whatever topics they're speaking on, their experience to do so. But I haven't seen any panel discussion made up of just young women like this panel discussion. So I think first and foremost, that's really where breaking the bias for me starts. I've always been one of those people who's been the youngest in the room or the youngest at the table. And, fortunately for me, I think the people who I've been sitting with at those tables with have allowed me to really express myself. They invited me for a reason and recognized that reason. But I know that also it's not always the case, and one of the things that I've always advocated for and fought for is to have young people at the table, whether it's boardrooms, in management, in corporate South Africa, you hardly see that. So as much as we speak about, gender equality, also bringing in the young women, to the table as well. And I think, platforms like YLC, which really is about grooming the next generation of ethical leaders, those platforms are needed, right? So I think, just to be here right now, for me, sums up what breaking the bias is in terms of young women have a voice, number one. We don't need to be given a voice. we have something to say. We do have, you know, some sort of qualification or experience to put our inputs as well, you know. And so for me, that really was what breaking the bias means. You know, I was fortunate enough to attend a leadership academy for girls. So I have always been raised that you have a voice, use it. So when I walk into any room, I walk in confidently, and I expect those who are in this room to welcome me so, because I have something to bring to the table. So I think breaking the bias really is about, as we speak, you know, about gender equality, it is International Women's Day, as we speak about gender equality, also making sure we're bringing along the girl child and the young women as well.
Yeah, I really love that because I know that you're not here forever. You will disappear the screen.
Hopefully not, but yeah.
Okay, great. So, I mean, you mentioned quite a few important pointers about basically, you know, not needing a voice as a woman, not needing the microphone in order for you to be heard, but, you know, coming collectively and like what we've done now as young women, like you mentioned, you know, being the voice and sitting at the table. If you don't have a table, create your own. And this is what YLC is also really about. So this also comes back to the question that I have for you in terms of breaking stereotypes. Please share with us in terms of the sector that you are in, and therefore you need to just inform us what sector you are in, and how are you breaking, you know, so basically you'll share with us basically how you make doing the most for other women, and when you are sitting at these tables, how are you doing this, and what sector are you in, and what are the challenges that you currently face as a young woman?
Yeah. So I in my company, I run, you know, I do coaching. I mainly focus on coaching young professionals, you know, pre-graduates and also graduates. And then I also do personal branding. And, you know, it's actually funny enough, this was never the intention, but for whatever reason, all my clients for personal branding are females. They come from various industries, but when it comes to graduates, I'm mainly in the logistics industry. And I think the way I've been, you know, breaking the bias, you know, to say is, you know, the logistics industry is a very male-dominated industry, like a lot of, you know, industries. I mean, you think about courier company, it's picking up boxes, heavy lifting, you know, it's being on the trucks, on the road for a very long time. So it's not very female, you know, populated, or it's not like very female friendly. But what I've been doing, because part of my role is recruiting these graduates as well and placing them, you know, in the different departments in the companies as well. So I've been very intentional in actually recruiting females, you know. A lot of times the ratio that I would, you know, recruit is 60% female and 40% male. You know, that's how I've been doing it. I intentionally seek out, you know, young women who studied logistics, who studied operations, because they are there. We're just not seeing them, or they are there and then they just, you know, go into other industries as well. So we've made it an intention that even when they come to the company, you will be placed in the operations department. You will pick up the boxes, you know, and sometimes they cry and I get there and I'm like, girl, those nails have to go, you know, let's put that hair in the ponytail, because there's some heavy lifting here, because I do it sometimes, you know, peak season, Black Friday, it's very busy. So I put on my boots and we go onto the floor. Also part of the breaking the biases is that, you know, we have to say, if we're going to if we want equality as women, if they say pick up that box and your male counterpart is picking up that box, you better pick up that box, girl, you know, because you can't now say it's too heavy for me, I can't do it, you know. So that's what I've been doing intentionally, you know, just making sure that we are putting in those you know, in terms of recruitment and all of that, and also just the policies as well that are put in place to say, actually, for the next person who's going to come after me to do this, they need to make sure that this is the ratio that they're going for, because it's not going to change otherwise. So that's really what I've been doing. And in my coaching as well, encouraging the graduates that I coach to say, go for these roles that may seem a little bit difficult or not so friendly for you, but you need to push yourself, because you know, for you to get to management, you're not just going to wake up and get to management, but you need to start from the ground up and know the business as well. And sometimes that means getting your hands dirty, you know. So and so that's really how I've been doing it.
All right, love it. So now I want to find out from you again, Mathapelo. Um, you know, this Refilwe has spoken a lot about obviously essentially women needing to work as well and showing their you know, the fact that they're valuable and they can do the work that men sometimes or society thinks that we cannot do. In your opinion, what do you think International Women's Day means? You know, what is the intention of this day, do you think, just based on how society is today? We've heard the definition, but in terms of your understanding, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think for me, this day really allows me to not only reflect, but also honor the fearless and courageous women who are leading daily. You know, women that are on the front lines of progress and actively and contributing daily to create a more equal future. Because for me, I think International Women's Day also it's all about women sponsoring other women and sharing opportunities because women are honestly a formidable force. And I mean, the statistics are there that when you invest in women, you invest in communities in many ways because women are such givers. They always think of if I benefit, there's other 100 more women that can benefit from any opportunity that I think of. But most importantly as well, this day reminds me of really a famous quote probably we've heard so many times by Marianne Williamson, which she's an author, and she talks about how our deepest fear is not that we're not adequate, you know, that our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. And today, I think is a reminder of the power that we possess as women, the power that we possess in a workplace, in family, in business, and that in our light, not our darkness, that should frighten us because we're brilliant and we shouldn't play small. And I think sometimes as women we dim our light, we shrink so that other people don't necessarily have to feel insecure around us. Even at work, we scared about our voices, but I think for me this day is a reminder that we need to shine in everything that we're given, and no one should give us permission to innovate. No one should give us permission to lead, and no one should give us permission to sit at the table, you know, and to have a voice. But I think we need to unconsciously allow ourselves to command and take control and take up space and show up with courage. And that's what I try to do when even in an environment that I'm in. I'm in an ICT space, as a technology space, and every day I remind myself that I have something to add, and my experience is unique.
Sure.
And my voice is unique even in the boardroom, that my experience versus someone who probably grew up in Europe. I grew up in a typical African or in South Africa, which is a typical story of an African child, you know, where you don't necessarily have the
Resources.
resources around you, you know, but you make the best out of it. And that's the mentality that you bring even in a workplace where you are able to solve the complex situation based on your experience, because your experience is absolutely valuable. So yeah,
Love it.
that's just really my reflection.
Yeah, love it. So, Lerato, I hope you have not disappeared on me. You know, you spoke about a whole lot of things, especially making sure that we even Refilwe, to just basically making sure that we've all got the same opportunities, and we come to a table and we show up once again, you know. And in 1995, the Beijing Platform for Action flagged 12 key areas where obviously urgent action was needed to ensure greater equality and opportunities for women, men, girls, and boys. And it also laid out concrete ways for countries to bring out change. So the UN Women work very closely with the government and partners to ensure such changes happen for women and girls around the world. So we do have people, you know, that also are doing the work for us, whilst we, in our levels, also do the work, because then it shows more impact in our actual societies. So some of the 12 critical areas of concern were women in poverty, education and training of women, women and health, violence against women, women and armed conflict, women and the economy, women in power and decision making, institutional mechanism, my tongue twist, and then human rights of women, women and the media, women and the environment, and the girl child. So those 12 key areas, I think we all kind of know, we all kind of have heard, you know, we've got the Bring a Girl Child to Work. So some of these initiatives, for example, are actually in action. And it seems that a lot of these critical areas as well, we also making sure that as much as these global decisions were made, we playing our role as well to make sure that the younger girls that are coming, that are going to be the future leaders as well, are playing a part in this global decision making. Because the fact that we are doing all these things, it's helping, you know. And now, Lerato, to you, please share what the Beijing Platform Action means to you, and does it resonate with you today as a young lady who's a CA and working in the finance industry?
Sure. Thank you so much, Thando, and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for this awesome opportunity to share my thoughts with you ladies this evening. And so, Thando, to answer your question, I mean, the Beijing platform does resonate with me, and what it means to me. I do agree that these are certainly key actions that do require urgent actions. And I just think the best way to really touch on this is to delve deeper into these key areas that have been identified, right? And so I'll just really talk to the ones that have hit home for me as I was trying to dissect these and really reflect on where we have come since 1995 up to date. So on the issue of women and poverty, you realize that, you know, when women are poor, their rights get infringed upon, especially as it relates to choice. Because, I mean, if you are poor, what options do you have? What's in front of you is really what you will have to settle for. And so you realize that not only are you economically discriminated and excluded, but this is further exacerbated by the fact that you are also a woman. So you are excluded not only on the basis of economy, but also on the basis of gender. So the struggle really is truly deep for us as women, right? And so to bring this closer to home for me, really, as I was reflecting, I mean, I think having been raised, you know, from a position of disadvantage, I mean, when I think about, you know, the journey with my mother and just trying to barely survive and making ends meet, and then your mother passes away as a teenager, you know, you are raised by grandparents, your father is not really somebody who is on the picture. So you can really see that the odds are stacked up against you, right? And so it is through then the existence of organizations such as, you know, the International Women's Forum, as well as the African Women Chartered Accountants Forum, really organizations that have been played such a pivotal role in shaping the place that I find myself in, and especially the leaders who serve in these organizations, because these phenomenal women really truly try to make sure that nobody gets left behind, and at each and every level they are trying to uplift as they climb. And so, as I've mentioned briefly about my background and just how poverty can adversely impact the life of women, for me, it has always just been about, rising above circumstances and making sure that I come out on the side of this just, better than I came in, and very grateful because it was through support and opportunities, like I said, of organization and other phenomenal leaders. And so what I do want to say is that, certainly through these relationships, I have managed to come out on the side of this. I've mentioned about choices. I find that currently I'm able to make better life choices around the quality of life for myself and my kids. I'm able to occupy positions in society and even in the corporate world that I ordinarily would not have been able to occupy. Being able to choose is a privilege that I certainly do not take for granted. And you realize that this is through economic empowerment. And so that is something that is very pivotal, that needs to really be achieved in order for us to bridge the gender gap and certainly break the bias. And this then fed through the next point around these key areas that have been identified about women education and training.
Yes.
This is actually one of the ones that hit home for me, because education certainly was an opportunity that gave me a massive breakthrough for me. Like, it was through education that I was able to just come out of it and pull through. And so what I really want to say is that, we can have initiatives all day long, we can have hashtags, we can have events and talk about these things, but at the end of the day, it goes back to the individuals. As people, we need to take responsibility for our own growth and our own development. And we need to make sure that when a window of opportunity has been presented to us, we seize it and we capitalize on it. For me, that gift of opportunity was education, and to somebody else, it might be something else. But the responsibility of action rests with the individual, right? And so, in the words of the late Tata Nelson Mandela, where he says, education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. And I 100,000% agree with that. If anybody is a testament to what education can do to the life of a person, I'm that girl. Okay, so, as I was reflecting through all of these 12 key areas, a lot of them were really resonant with me. And so one of the things that I hit home as well for me was around the topic of health, right? And health, not as we know it in the social media and the pressures of society about how a healthy person is perceived or is supposed to look in our world today, but health because of, having access to good quality health care. But you realize how all of these things are interlinked, because this also goes back then to the conversation about poverty. Because unfortunately, you find that it is those people who are poor, who are in those disadvantaged communities, whether it's in the rural areas or in some township areas, that are really struggling to get access to good health care. And you realize that, when women are not at their prime health, they cannot reach their full potential, they cannot thrive, they cannot flourish. And so you realize that really bridging the poverty gap and empowering women economically is probably one of the most key way to make sure that everybody can reach those potentials that they so have built inside of them. Certainly from my side, I do not take it for granted that I do have access to good health and care. And this is just also testament to the fact that, when one area of your life becomes okay, it has a ripple effect on all the other areas of your life. And so another area that I would really like to touch on, and which I really think is a hot topic currently, even in our country especially, but in the world at large, is around the topic of, violence against women. Thando, I would really be shocked if anybody could stand here and say that they are not affected by gender-based violence. But by what I mean about that is that I'm not saying that all of us are being beaten, battered, and abused and what have you, but to some degree or another, we know the perpetrators, we know the victims. And so this is one area that I would really like to say that, as the women in this platform, as the women in the world, we have to be advocates for these women who are really going through this. We have to be at the forefront of this. All of us have a role to play to make sure that there's awareness, there's processes and system, and that this also is put to an end. Because can you imagine being a woman who on a daily basis you are in an environment that is toxic, where you are being abused? I mean, you cannot even show up in the world as your best self, because you adjust, your confidence is so short, your self-esteem is so low, because somebody is busy just, tearing you down on a regular and consistent basis. So I really just would like to echo each and every one of us to say, let us take our stand, let us participate, let us do what needs to be done to make sure that no woman has to suffer in the hand of our male counterparts, right? And that's it. I mean, there's 12 points. If I had to go through all of them, we'd
We
probably
get
be
it.
here all night.
We are
Yes,
really
okay. So let's
inspired. We're really inspired. We're already seeing the comments. Let's give others a chance. He might be getting dry.
okay, yes, just a second. So what I want to really say, Thando, as I bring this to a close, is to say, for me, as I was reflecting on this, is that it really boils down to empowerment. And if you can even think about my journey, it is through the empowerment that I've received that I am able to come and stand here in front of you and speak about my journey. There's a saying that I like where it says, if a person is hungry, give him a fish and you will feed him for a day, but teach him how to fish and then you will feed him for a lifetime. So that's what we need to do. If we can give women and equip women with the necessary tools and skills to be empowered, then you will find that we will break out of poverty. We will have highly skilled professionals who are leaders in their own right, who have their voices amplified, who have good health, and who are not violated and abused, that women will attain their rightful place and status in society. And this is what will propel us forward, because really and truly, an investment in women is an investment in the future. Thank you.
Amen. 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 Young Oprah. Huh? We are definitely fortunate to have you here, Lerato. And I think you raise so many people are asking questions, people are commenting, people are resonating with what you're saying. So and you touched on a lot of these 12 Beijing critical areas of concern. So thank you for your pointers. And then now we move over to ZINTLE. May you dearly show us your face, Queen. But your question is, just basically share with us what generational equality means to you.
Generational equality, what it means to me is, being able to show up as yourself, who you are, without any biases, or prejudices being placed on you. It could be about your capabilities in the workplace, your role at home, within your intricate relationships and friendships, with the older generation, whether you're like a millennial such as myself, trying to interact with, I think in America they call them like baby boomers, and all of that, that's what generational equality means to me, is like being in the same room as someone of that generation, and being able to either work with them in a professional capacity, have a conversation, and just engage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love what you just shared, because it also touches a point of a question that Bianca Williams has posed to us, to say, great platform, ladies. What are your thoughts on young women collaborating with seasoned women, either in business, government, and social spaces, so that there are opportunities for innovation, creativity, and updated outlook on tackling the socioeconomic challenges of the country? And I think you're the perfect person to ask.
I think that's the whole reason that YLC exists, right? We have women from IWFSA who come from these fantastic backgrounds where they broke many biases in their own personal capacities, in their careers. They're game changers. They just amazing and all of that. And now they've created this platform where we have an opportunity to shine our own light.
Yes.
So opportunities will come their way and they'll just, you know, swing it over to us and be like, I know the perfect person. I'm sure you understand, as the chair of the mentorship program, that's something that has happened. This year for IWFSA, the theme is, you know, passing on the baton, say 20-year celebration. And I can count for many ways that my mentor, who is the chair of YLC, has passed on the baton to me in my own professional capacity, whether there's like digital marketing opportunities, and also just, you know, with my own personal development as well.
And I think it's once again what brings back to what Refilwe and what Mathapelo said, is that the opportunities are there. It's up to us to show up. And, you know, I thank Madam Chair. And I mean, she's also commented and said, and ZINTLE, you and the ladies have been amazing at grabbing these opportunities presented to you. And I think amongst all the women that I've been surrounded with within the platform here, as well as some of the mentees that have actually messaged to say, hey, I can't get hold of my mentor. You know, they're eager. They have the opportunity and they're willing. They're trying. They don't sit and wait for things to happen. They do it. So us all here as people that are, you know, we're having this conversation, as well as the mentees that are also on this conversation. We're all doing it in our own ways. And I don't think, just like Mathapelo said again, we are very modest in our ways. We do need to give ourselves a pat on the back to say, actually, I am showing up. You know, I've been given this platform and this opportunity, and we are really doing it, you know. And if we don't remind ourselves, then we have other different challenges, you know, the imposter syndrome. So if we work as a community and remind ourselves, and having the leaders that we have as well, and the mentors that we have, and the YLC and IWFSA opportunities, you know, I think all of us would be wondering what we'll be doing today at International Women's Day. We'll be watching the news and we'll be watching what other people are doing International Women's Day, and not partaking in conversations that actually matter and affect our daily lives too, because away from here, we are our own people. And I'm now going to move over to something very similar to opportunities and the difficulties of women, the gender equality for sustainability tomorrow theme. Please may you just unpack that for us. Do you think as well, as young women, we are fully represented in the economy? And if not, what could be done?
Okay. I think in terms of the economy, you see misrepresentation everywhere. You go into, let's say, a Checkers, and the lady who's checking out your grocery bags is there, while the manager who's sitting at the back is probably a man. And all of that. So I don't think we've achieved gender equality. I don't think we're close to achieving gender equality, because a lot of the times when we do think about gender equality, we also benchmark it to your capabilities on how masculine you can be, or how close to being like a man you can be, instead of embracing your femininity and embracing your womanness. I think gender equality is like showing up, hi, I'm a woman, I'm a human, respect me, and I have rights just like you. So when you look back, you know, if you look back, you know, 9 August 1956, the women who were marching for our rights, our ability to even be on this platform speaking about this topic, those women didn't have the same access and privileges, access to the privileges we have today.
So ZINTLE,
a lot of
you're
them were
breaking on my side.
tied to either the men in their family. You need permission to eat and everything like that. House, you need permission from a male figure in your family. And oh, am I breaking? Is my connection?
Now I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
Hello?
Now I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
I can hear you, ZINTLE. Can you hear me?
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, you were
I
breaking.
don't have like
If you
chilling or
could just
anything, but I think
continue.
now if I just yes, I can hear you.
Just watch time. I do
Okay.
need to get to
I'll just stop my video.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just stop my video so that it's just easier.
No problem.
So I just to conclude, when you look back, say this is how much we've achieved so much in comparison to the ladies, the women who marched in 1956, we've achieved so much. But when we look at our present situation, being a Black woman in South Africa, it's no longer you know your struggles. Me and my sister, we always talk about there isn't a hierarchy to struggling, because you know your life story is personal to yourself. So you look back then, the access that they had is different to the access that we have now. Now our struggles are what Ms. Lerato mentioned, such as GBVF and all of that. And now how do we look for a future for our future daughters and all of that, and make it safe enough where you know it's not normalized to hear about someone being abused. It's not normalized to hear about someone died at the hands of their partner, boyfriend, or husband, or anything like that. So yeah, I think I've answered your question. I just
you
am speeding through because
you really have, and I think you've touched on so many points that we as society, you know, and as you said, when you look back then, it's like, oh no, this happens, and people fought for us, but you know, we're still in the struggle today, in 2022. So what much has changed? Mathapelo, I'm going to move over to you, and I want to ask, how can we achieve gender equality and breaking bias in an artificial intelligence, as this is a sector that you practice in?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to AI or artificial intelligence, I think there's a lot, because I mean, if you think about it, our brains are wired to categorize things, and usually biases do creep in, especially when it comes to algorithms in several ways.
The line is really bad, hey?
Is my line bad?
I
Is my
can
line
hear
bad?
you.
No,
I can hear you, but my only request for all the speakers is just to keep your answers short, so that I can continue asking more questions, and obviously sharing some of the questions that have been asked by our guests.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I mean, I was just talking about how our biases do creep in, especially when it comes to algorithms, because they come in different ways. But AI systems, because they learn to make decisions based on data, or data that has been trained, which it can include bias in human decisions, such as gender, race, sexual orientations. But what I think needs to be removed when it comes to barriers is just to break the traditional mold actively, you know, because I think we have prejudices as people, and if you look at the software developers mainly is white male, you know, so I think we need to increase more people of color into the ICT sector, and where more inclusive innovation is encouraged, because usually people they hire people that look like them, that think like them, and this is where diversity really plays a critical role to be able to create a more inclusive innovation when it comes to technology. So I think we need to invest in policies to help women in the workplace, have more female role models in the AI sector or technology sector, review different policies, but most importantly, make diversity a priority for organization. I think those are some of the, yeah.
Thank you so much. I think you've captured it. You know, on the nail. Policies, obviously, it's not like they don't exist, but you know, days and times have changed, and they can and should be revamped and looked at again in order to fit the woman of today. So I definitely agree with you. Lerato, just to keep it short with your response, please, if it can be literally a minute. Breaking stereotypes as well in the financial sector that you play in. You've already, spoken about a lot in terms of your background. You've spoken a lot as well about basically the 12 critical concerns as well, areas of the. So, I mean, you've touched on a lot, but just let me bring it back in terms of your career and how you guys are breaking boundaries and how you breaking boundaries. Are you still here, Lerato?
Yes. I am here, Thando, but my connection is so bad. I won't switch on video just because I don't want to get disconnected. So I'll just speak
No problem.
without the video if everybody
Sure.
doesn't mind.
I'll look
Okay,
at your
1
name.
minute. Let's go. So breaking stereotype is something that certainly has to start with individuals, right? I know there are some big stuff that really needs to be addressed at a larger scales, things like racism, microaggressions, Have you ever heard people say to you that, oh, you are so, sorry?
We can hear you, Lerato.
Am I
You can
here?
continue. Yes, you can just continue talking. As
Okay.
soon as we do not hear you, we'll make some reaction.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I was talking about microaggressions. People will make snide comments, and I think a lot of it is unconscious bias, but somebody can say something to you and say, oh, you know what, you're so well spoken, we love how you articulate yourself, and those kind of things. And you know and discriminations. Some of the things are certainly unconscious biases, but I think it's we need to stop the negative self-talk, whether it's with ourselves or even amongst ourselves in groups as individuals. Things like saying, oh, you drive like a man. And so I guess by implication, we want to say that, and I think ZINTLE also touched on something like that, where we want to say that, men are better drivers and women aren't. No, just say you're a good driver. I mean, women can be good drivers, or things like you kick like a girl. Okay, so girls can kick, we get it. But yeah, I think we need to draw the line in the sand as individuals to just make sure that we're not amplifying gender roles to such an extent that we want to say we as women can't do certain things because, well, men are better and vice versa, right? And so I think I want to talk just briefly about the imposter syndrome and how I've seen itself also manifest itself in myself and even in my career, right? And so I think what I found is that sometimes, a lot of the times, we are just second guessing ourselves or even feel undeserving if you are asked to run a certain project at work or lead a certain initiative or whatever. You are always wondering, am I the right person? Am I qualified? Can I do this? And those kind of things. But we really need to own our position and stake our claim for those positions, because as we have said, we are qualified, we deserve to be here, we've earned our seat at the table. And so how we need to do this is about women celebrating other women. We must be the first people to celebrate each other. We must not tear each other down. It has to be men. We absolutely have to validate each other, because listen, if it's coming from my sisters, I will know that, you know what, honey, I'm winning, right? So we just have to have that thing about us where it's just like, celebrate success. We see you, we are inspired, we want to follow suit, right? And then just the last point I want to talk about is the fact that I have certainly experienced institutional racism at some point or another in my career. And you find that this institutional racism, it comes draped itself in subtlety. So this nowadays, you are never going to be called name. You are going to face racism in a form of exclusion. You get put on bad projects. You get put on opportunities, but you are not being supported. You are not getting the same quality of experience and exposure as your white counterparts. And I mean, if you ask, people always make sure that they will answer you, because they'll say, oh, but we've given you this client. Oh, but you are doing this project, you are on this program, and so on and so forth, right? And so I think in dealing with this, we need to make sure that women's voices are amplified in their organization, in their businesses, in the workplace. And how we can do this is that we need to foster an environment where women can speak freely without any fear of retaliation and even victimization. And so what this boils down to, when I'm even considering a career move or even in the companies that I've worked for, it's about culture. So a lot of the time, these kind of behaviors are entrenched in organizational culture. And so I'm very conscious and clear that even as I make a move, I want to be in an organization where I will show up as my best self each and every day.
I've got my hand up. Thank you so much. I was about to cut you. Yo, we need a session for Lerato people, please. I love it.
Am I there?
You hear and we can hear you and we thank you. We heard you. And you spoke about very valid.
Hi.
We can hear you, Lerato. So I'm going to move over to our last set of questions, and then I'm going to basically read out some of the questions that you guys have shared. ZINTLE, I'm going to bring you back in, as well as REFILWE, if REFILWE is also still here. A lot of young people are more concerned and active now in the climate change conversation.
Sorry, my question is bad.
No, we can hear you. It's all right. Thank you. So what are some of your views regarding this? This is now to ZINTLE for now. Do we join into this conversation? Into this movement? What do we do when we sit here in South Africa and we're facing other challenges? Because it's something that is of importance as well. ZINTLE, want to take a stab at that?
Sorry, Thando, can you paraphrase the question for me?
So, young people are more concerned and active in climate change now. What are your views on this? And do you think we should be joining this movement and this conversation?
I mean, definitely. I don't think climate change is a movement as it impacts and affects everyone. It's something that that is happening, and it impacts a lot of industries. Load shedding could be an example of climate change.
Yeah.
Using coal as a form to generate, using fossil fuels to generate electricity is not really good for the environment. You know what I'm saying? So I think anyone, if you're alive, if you're breathing, you should be involved in climate change. And yeah.
Yeah. And REFILWE, what are your thoughts on that as well? I know you're still here. I don't know if she can actually talk, ZINTLE. Is she a panelist? Maybe Mathapelo.
She's joined with her
phone. She can't talk. Yeah, she joined. Yeah, no problem. She can't join. Mathapelo, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you think, sustainability improves the quality of our lives. So I think I agree with ZINTLE. It's not just a movement, and fighting climate change, it's all about just making small steps, and which they make a huge impact. For an example, instead of buying a new cloth or of item, why don't you consider reusing some of your clothes, or recycling some of your clothes as well, or repairing things instead of replacing and buying new things. And we know that the future as well, we're looking into electric cars instead of just the cars that we currently are using. So I think it's just to just make it short and snappy, just reuse things, like you reuse your water bottle instead of buying bottled water. So it's simple things like that you can literally make your everyday consumption by making just small steps.
Got you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Guys, the conversation can always obviously continue. It is #BreakTheBias, and you guys can tag us on social media on YLC Ideal. I am going to read some of you guys' questions real quick. So there was a question as well, basically to find out from you guys that what are you guys saying to young ladies in terms of advice, in terms of, moving forward. Mathapelo, just real quick, one-liner.
I love that question, actually, because for me, as an African child, it's all about it's possible. If I share my story, obviously, is just to say it is possible. Our dreams are valid and we are valid as well into the world. Yeah.
Thank you. Real quick, because I'm looking at time and I'm sure everybody's got things to do. Refilwe, what would you like to say to a young girl who's tuned in here and who's got big dreams?
I always say this to those I coach, and that is visualize your highest self and start showing up as that. So whatever is your truest, highest self, start showing us up as that every single day.
All right, love it. Thank you. Lerato, literally like a sentence. I have to be very careful with you. ZINTLE, you can go whilst the connection is being sorted that side from Lerato. Young girl today, what would you like to say? Real short.
I just remembered something from prep school that they made us revise over and over again. I don't know who wrote this. It's like a poem, like a motivational poem, and it goes like, set your standards high, you deserve the best, try for what you want and never settle for less. Believe in yourself, no matter what you do. Keep a winning attitude and you will never lose.
Love, love, love. Poetry. Now I'm going to hand over to Kosi. Kosi, are you here to just say our thank yous and our goodbyes? And whilst Kosi is still trying to reconnect real quick, I'm just going to read some of the comments real quick. So Lefuno has said, embracing our femininity is a great and empowering tool. Thank you, ZINTLE, for the insight. And we also have a comment from, let me read, from Mamchai Foster saying, taking responsibility for our own growth is a powerful thing. Thanks, Lerato. And Madam Chair has also shared and said, love that point, Lerato, regarding education. When we look at where we all come from, education was the guiding, was the guiding light for us all. So it's been such a great conversation. And here's Kosi to thank everybody here.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. As always, an hour is never enough, hey? I think Lerato, Refilwe, Mathapelo, and ZINTLE had so much insight to still share with us. I think I just want to summarize some of the things that just stood out for me, right? One of the things that Refilwe said is you don't need an invitation to the table, right? You don't need someone to remind you that you have a voice. A voice has been given to us. Let's just exercise it, whichever way, in whichever platform. Let's just amplify that voice. It already exists within us. Mathapelo actually requoted, I think, Mandela from Marianne Wilson saying, our greatest fear is that we're not inadequate. There is nothing about us that's inadequate, but our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. I think as we come together as young women, we just keep on reminding ourselves just how powerful we are, and that there's nothing wrong with exercising that power. And we can exercise this in whichever platform where we sit, in whichever room we walk into. Let's just bring that with us because it sits within us. And we know, I mean, Mathapelo also said this, that inclusivity, people are want to exclude us, right? Because we want to work with people that you're comfortable with. And we look different, so we make them feel uncomfortable. But it's okay for them to feel uncomfortable. It's not okay for us to accept that they feel uncomfortable. It's just for us to actually show up as ourselves, show up in our truest form, in our authentic self, just reiterating what ZINTLE said, and just knowing that we've got the capabilities within us. I think I've captured most of the things that stuck with me. I think there's one thing that ZINTLE said, that there's no hierarchy to struggle, right?
Yes.
And some of us, we sometimes dim our struggles, or we don't want to talk about it because we think they are less than, or they're not equivalent to another person. But I think the more we talk about our struggles, the more empowered we get, because some of those people, especially the elder people or the more mature people in our space, have already gone through this, right? They've already had the struggles, they've already fought for us. I think for us is actually to say, You guys have left it here. You've created the constitution. It's for us then to say, how then do we make sure that everyone is enforced to make sure that that constitution is enforced, and to make sure that we're never excluded from anything else. And then to make it easier for the next generation, our daughters should not have to fight the struggle again. We talk about the fact that the gender gap is only going to be closed in 120 years. I think we have the power to accelerate that. Thank you so much, guys. I mean, this conversation was so insightful, and I'm sure everyone else enjoyed it. Please do continue reading our newsletters on a monthly basis. Please make sure that you actually go through and read our magazine. We have very great panelists, and we've really got good people that we interviewed that take their time to actually just empower us. And please just follow us on social media. YLC Ideal everywhere, on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn as well. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Over
so
to
much,
you.
Kosi. Thank you so much, Kosi. That was beautiful. And thank you to everybody else that joined. And your, newsletter website, please, www.ylc.co.za is the place to be. Good night and God bless, and happy International Women's Day.
Hi, thank you.